We are live. Hey guys, thank you for joining us tonight on our YouTube channel at Flippin Hippos. I'm Star, the Flipping Hippo. Tonight I have a guest that, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. I saw an ad start on behind me on the other window. I have a guest tonight that I'm very, very excited to have here. I binge watch his channel all the time because he's all about comic books and collectibles and lots of nerd stuff. I could never flip what he flips because I would keep it all and I would be broke. But I'm going to let him introduce himself. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Hey, my name's Dominic. I run the Primetime Treasure eBay store and YouTube channel, and I specialize in selling comic books, collectibles, toys, all things essentially vintage and collectible. I do dabble into some other things such as clothes, but you know, if you basically have watched American Pickers, then you pretty much know the type of stuff that I like to look for.
Okay, and so far in the chat, I see Barry, Thrifty Santa. Thank you for coming in tonight. I see Kelly. I see my mod Holly. Lance is here. Justin's here. And Grandma Wrinkles is here. That's who I see. Hello, guys. Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
If you aren't familiar with Dominic, I have already below in the description box, I have his Facebook group. I have his YouTube channel down there and his Instagram. So I would recommend that you definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel. He has so much information on just how to source at estate sales, how to package things. It's just a great channel. And tell us about your Facebook group.
My Facebook group is called the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. And so it's basically a place where people get together, talk about all things related to reselling. There's really nothing that's off topic. Fortunately, even though we have 2,600 members, and Star, you could attest to this, we really have not had any issues with any trolls or anything coming in there and causing all sorts of problems. It's kind of a fun, friends, family atmosphere. I do a be on the lookout item of the day, so a BOLO item of the day. I don't think I've missed one in a year. I've done one every single day, and they're in all sorts of different categories. And not only do I talk about what item to look out for, but I also provide a lot of information about pricing and comps and that sort of thing. So you are allowed to put links in the group just as long as you're not too spammy with it. I even allow a little bit of self-promotion. As long as you're someone who's contributing to the greater whole of the group, then that sort of thing is fine. I just don't like people coming in there and just instantly putting links to some type of service or business. But besides that, you know, it's pretty fair game.
Yeah, it is a very, very friendly group. I mostly lurk there. I'm guilty of that, but I do read everything. Everyone's really friendly. I think the only troll in there is me. So how long have you been selling on eBay?
That's a good question. Originally, if you want to go back to the beginnings of it, it's been since about 2000. That's when I went to Florida and attended graduate school in Fort Lauderdale at Nova Southeastern University. And on the weekends, my wife and I would go down to this massive outdoor flea market called the Swap Shop. And we would just go there every weekend. It was around that time that eBay just started to get more popular. And, you know, we didn't have any phones or apps to check comps back then. And we would just find stuff just based on instinct and just based on our own knowledge of things that we thought looked cool, and we'd bring them home and we'd try and flip them. And sometimes we were really successful, and other times we basically, you know, fell on our face, but fortunately nothing that was, you know, too major of a loss. But overall, you know, we made a nice, you know, chunk of change on the side to help, you know, just, you know, basic daily expenses and stuff like that to cover a little extra change. Then I kind of faded off with it for a while once I went further into graduate school training, which is a whole separate issue in terms of my other job. But I got back into it a few years ago, you know, really intensely. I mean, I'd sell a few things here or there, but over the past 2 years or so, I mean, I've really been hardcore with it to a level that I've never, ever been in the past, and have just been super successful. I mean, it's almost like a second full-time job of mine doing this and my YouTube channel and the Facebook group and stuff.
Yeah, I can't. I'm 100 full time.
Yeah.
Do you have your thing muted? Because I hear an echo. Sorry.
Like again.
But yeah,
I'm muted.
This is my 100% full-time job, and I don't even have a Facebook group. I just have Instagram and YouTube, eBay, and then Poshmark is pretty time intensive. But I have a hard time juggling all of it, so I couldn't imagine working full-time outside of the house too. So that is commendable for sure. My next question is, we all know that you have like a little honey hole, right, that you go to.
I do.
I want to know like how you stumbled upon that, and then tell us a little bit about it and like the deals you get and what you find there.
Yeah. So can you see me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the honey hole, I give up most of my secrets except the honey hole. That one I will not tell anyone where that is. You still hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that is basically a collector who I know really well, who specializes in comic books as I do, but also basically gets all sorts of other collectibles, toys, all sorts of, old books, signs, and person basically allows me to go there whenever I want to. And I usually go once a month, but I've been going about twice a month. And he basically gives me free reign to just basically grab almost anything I want. So I'll take a day off of my regular job and just go there and spend most of the day and just basically source in this one location. And it's constantly replenished because this person is always purchasing massive amounts of collectibles. And so he's got a lot of, just tons of stuff. He doesn't even know what he has. So I'll just go digging and find stuff. And it's just a great opportunity, so much so that I've increased it up to twice a month now that I'm going there. And, I'm able to flip the stuff, for a pretty good profit, pretty much every time. So it's a great opportunity.
Like immensely jealous of you on a level that's not even like healthy. But if I honestly, if I had a honey hole like that, I don't know if I could flip the stuff. I think it would be really hard for me. I love money, but with the plush and the clothes and stuff, I'm not fashion. I like wear jeans and graphic tees. So letting go of clothing is easy. But I think if I was like literally given reign at a comic book store, take whatever you want, I'd come home with like a room full of Harley Quinn and Doctor Who stuff.
Yeah, I have to admit it is challenging sometimes, but I just basically have to go into it saying, you know what? I know that, anything I pretty much find there, I'm buying it for the purpose of flipping it. And I already tell myself not to get myself in the mode that I want to keep the stuff that I'm going into it as a business. So I just try to keep that mindset, and that really helps me out. Although once in a while, I'll take something like, this Godzilla King of Monsters book and this Masters of the Universe book, and I'll display it, in my my office or something like that for a while before I actually turn around and flip it.
So how did you stumble upon the honey hole?
I actually just got lucky. If I say too much, I'm going to give up where it is, but basically I just essentially stumbled upon it. It's not a place that's easy to find, and I basically, when I first went there, it wasn't a place where I had all this access. It was something that was developed over time, which is something I like to talk to people about with regards to even a lot of estate sales that I go to and a lot of estate sale dealers that I deal with. It's very, very important in reselling to build relationships with whoever your, primary people are that you're, dealing with on a regular basis for sourcing, because then you could get good deals. You could get, get pretty much specials that other people aren't getting, early access to things. It's super important to build that relationship up and just, keep it positive. And that's what I did. And that allowed me to get access to all these secret rooms and stuff that barely anyone else has access to. So
you didn't like know the owner before, you just built a relationship with him?
Yeah, for basically the last year and a half or so, I would say. And it took about, I'd say like maybe 5 months or so to get it to that point that I was able to get basically broader access to the stuff that's really of high value and really nice stuff to like instantly flip. I could put it up and it's, you know, gone pretty quickly.
Okay, that was something I was always really curious about, like if that was a relationship you had prior to reselling or something you built.
Yeah, well, actually, I did have it prior to reselling, though. The interesting thing is, this was someone who I was going to initially actually buy things for my own collection. And actually, me getting back into reselling a few years ago started with me actually getting back into comic books and just collecting them for myself and trying to recover a lot of my collection that I sold when I was younger to buy a Sega Genesis. It was one of the, you know, biggest mistakes I ever made. So I've been trying to rebuild the collection, and I found this place and I was rebuilding things there. And then one thing led to another. And basically what I started to observe is how much this person was doing in terms of eBay sales, and how much he was doing in terms of collections that were coming into him. And just, you know, amazing when you buy in massive lots, how much of an incredible deal you could get. You know, and sometimes make your money back selling 1 or 2 pieces and you're buying 1,000 or more pieces. So eventually it just kind of inspired me to try it for myself, and to get back into the game again myself. And I went one day, got lucky, found a garage sale where someone was selling a relatively small lot of comic books. I'd say a few hundred. I wound up purchasing for $60 and made quick flip on it, and was doing really well with it. And then started just progressing more and more to the point that I bought a collection of 4,000 comics and just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I started branching out into other stuff besides the comic books that I knew well. You know, toys and American Pickers, one of my favorite TV shows. I love watching Storage Wars. Even though a lot of that stuff is staged, you could still learn a lot from the items that they have there and a lot of the negotiation strategies that they use. Pawn Stars is another one. So I love that stuff. I love the stuff that, you know, that they bring in and showcase. And I purchase a lot of that stuff. If you watch my haul videos, there's a ton of that stuff that I get.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna quickly say hello to some people in the chat. Sell Quick, Ship Quick is here. Hi. I don't know if it's both of them or just one of them, but hi to both of you. Tony's here. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
He says, yo, Dominic. Justin's here. Hi, Justin. Justin is RVA Flips. Hi, Amy. And I see Holly is pimping out yo YouTube for you. So, what is your favorite thing to flip?
My favorite thing to flip is comics. I mean, I always think you have to remember where your origins are. And for me, that's my origin. So I could guarantee anyone who goes to my store that there will literally never be a time where one of the items that you see listed on there is not a comic book. I know it better than anything. And so that's what I definitely gravitate to. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love flipping other things. One of the best examples is, I know you saw this yesterday, Star, from my haul video that I did yesterday at the estate sale, where I bought this box of Nabisco cookies from 1956. It was full. It was a Cowboys and Indians cookie. So it looks just like the Animal Crackers box, had the string on top. It was in mint condition, had like a tiny little dent on the bottom of it, but you never, ever find them full. You can find them empty, and once in a while they pop up empty. I put it up. I bought it for $2 at the estate sale and sold it within a few hours for almost $90, $87.50.
Wow.
So that kind of stuff I love doing too. I mean, there's just I can't explain it. It's just, I mean, if you do it, you know, but there's a rush you get and it's addicting. I mean, you go out, you source, you treasure hunt, you find something, and then to, you know, ultimately bring it to the market and get it to somebody who really wants it and make a huge profit in the end, like, you know, a massive return on investment like that. That kind of stuff I just love, and it's just what keeps me going. It keeps me going out sourcing, even though I have a lot of material. I just love the thrill of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think, aside from your honey haul, just from watching your haul videos and seeing what you put on Instagram, I feel like you're one of those people that just lucks out a lot and finds really great stuff for some reason. There's just people that do. Like, I went to an estate sale yesterday, and the best thing I came out with was a Disney glass, one of those square ones, the vintage ones. Yeah. And I've sold those before, and they do really well. I mean, I paid like $1/4 for it. and I'll probably get like 20 bucks for it. But
Right.
that's like the best thing I came out with. And then you're
Right.
like, hey, I found this 50 box of it. I'm like, man, like, sometimes I just feel like I never find stuff, and then I keep going, and then you will find something. So
yeah, you just got to keep working it. That's part of it. I mean, you got to just keep going and going and going. Don't get me wrong. There's times where I'll show up to a random estate sale and I'll walk through it, and sometimes I won't find anything that's good, and I just head out of there and go on to the next one. The other thing I would say, because I do know that there are some people who have who I've been interacting with about the estate sales, because I do a ton of that. I also do garage sales, but with the estate sales, some people tell me, well, in my area, the estate sales are really pricey. And my response to that is, around here, there are some estate sale dealers who are super pricey as well. And I will never, ever go to them again. I just all I need to do is go to one of those sales if they're an estate sale business, and that's it. They're on my list not to go to. So by continuously going to, if you're new at it, just keep going to different estate sale companies who are doing sales in your area and find the ones that have the best bargains. And that's what I've done. Like, I like automatically, it's just automatic to me when I see certain people doing a sale, I'm there. Like today, my haul video today is literally, I'm going to put it up later tonight, is just me going to an estate sale from one person who's my favorite estate sale dealer. And I had another great score there today. So you just got to keep working it, and then just building up relationships with those people as well, and you'll get great deals. Like, for example, when you see the haul video, I got a ton of stuff. I mean, like a box worth of stuff that was worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And some of the stuff was marked, some of the stuff was not marked. And they took the first two things out. They know me really well. They're like, all right, this is $3, this is $1. And then they just said, all right, well, just tell us how much you want to pay for everything else that's in the box. So I'm like, all right, well, how's 10 bucks? And they're like, sure, no problem. They just gave it to me. So, but that's because I've just built a great relationship with them and just continuously support their sales and stuff like that.
Yeah, and someone just said, because you look high and low where other people don't look, which I wanted to tell you a little story, because you were with us yesterday in spirit. So we were at this estate sale, and when we went to leave, there was a sign that said the basement entrance was around back. And I looked at Keith and I said, oh, Dominic says you always have to go in the basement. Like, you always find the best stuff in the basement. Not in this basement. This was like literally one of these basements that probably was built in 1873 that was still like dirt walls.
Yeah.
And like the floor was dirt, the walls were dirt. There were these old wooden shelves like stuck into the dirt, and like alcohol bottles, like old rum, like the bottles looked like really, really old, and they had all these spider webs and big old spiders crawling on them. And I was like, well, this is not one of the basements that he meant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that happens to me sometimes too. There'll be a bad basement, but in general, the basement or the attic is a great place to go to. One of the things that Carrie Berry's mom said, which is true, if you see in a lot of my videos, is look high, look low, and don't be impulsive when you walk into the estate sale. A lot of people do that. They just rush right ahead, and they don't realize what they just walked by. They just walked by a closet, for example. Like 70 people just walked by a closet that I actually took time to stop looking and found a whole bunch of valuable things. Even today, if you go to my Instagram account at Primetime Treasure, you'll see the little video clip I put up of a whole bunch of vintage Mad magazines that I found. Now, literally, there were 71 people ahead of me at this sale. Everyone went in that room before me, and everyone missed it because there was a cheap magazine on top of all the Mad magazines, and people just assumed that every other magazine below it would be just like that one. That has to be the only logical explanation. Plus, it was on the bottom of the shelf, so you actually had to get down, bend down, and put a little effort into it. And I was willing to do that. I got down on the ground and took off that top magazine and just found all those magazines. And funny thing is, the estate sale dealer said to me, I knew you were going to find those. I knew you were going to find it, because she knew they were there, but she said, I knew you were going to find them. But no one else was willing to do that. So you got to kind of look in places where, other people are not thinking to look.
Right. You have to be willing to dig anywhere you're at, not even just estate sales. We go to this one Goodwill that keeps the plush on the floor. It's like this really ridiculous place to keep it. It's on the floor. The coats come down, and like you have to like almost climb through the coats to start digging through the plush. But I get down on the floor, I sit on the floor, and I dig every week. And today I found some really good Disney parks and Disney store plush and a Curious George. I found a Curious George yesterday digging at an estate sale. So like I always like think in terms of if it's a bin full of something, get down there and dig, because you never know what's on the bottom. And most people, like with your magazines, they just kind of give a cursory look to the top and they don't bother beyond that.
Right.
Like, it might all be bad, whatever, bad magazine on the top, a cheap magazine or cheap plush on the top.
Absolutely.
Treasure at the bottom.
Right. For people who've watched my haul videos, they know, because I've said this so many times. Just go to the bottom of the box so many times, and that's where you'll find the most valuable thing that's been just sitting, for two reasons. One, it's probably been sitting down there for a while from the original owner, because the original owner put a whole bunch of stuff on top of it. Two, you also have to think, where do people hide things? People hide things on the bottom of a box that they think is valuable, that they don't want someone else to get, or they'll hide something behind a table that's leaning against the wall. I found an awesome, great sign recently for a gas company that was, again, like about 100 people went into this room before me, but no one bothered to look at the table that was pressed against the wall, pull it forwards, and then there it was, just right behind there. So you got to kind of just think psychologically how the original owner, would think, and in that kind of dwelling, and where they would put things.
Right. People tend to hide their treasures, but I think, like you said, I think they just keep putting stuff on top of it sometimes. And even I'm guilty of it. I have put stuff somewhere before where it's going to be safe and I'll remember where it is.
Yeah.
And like 3 years later, I'm doing a spring cleaning and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that.
Right. Yeah. So, the other thing I would say is don't be scared sometimes to separate from the crowd, because a lot of times people will go into a certain room and they'll rush into it. And I'll step back, I'll kind of look and see what everyone's doing, and I'll realize everyone's kind of in one location and no one's in like a little nook area to the left, for example. And so I'll just go in there and I'll be amazed that there's 100 people right outside and no one's in this room, and there's all sorts of vintage stuff that I'm taking from there. So people like have kind of groupthink a lot when they go into these sales, and it's just very interesting to study people's behavior and just kind of use that to give you advantages. And that's what I try to share on my YouTube channel, is how to use that psychology to help understand how people are approaching these sales, so you could use it to your advantage when you go.
Mm-hmm. People do. They tend to herd. People see other people going over here. They think there's something good over there, and they'll follow.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
So I do want to ask you, what is your full-time outside of the house job?
My full-time job outside of the house job is kind of related to what I was just talking about. I am a board-certified neuropsychologist. So what that basically means, if you have not heard of that before, is I'm basically, even though I don't look like it right now with my Spider-Man shirt, I am a type of doctor who studies the relationship between how your brain behaves and how you think and how you feel, and how you behave, essentially. And so basically I have patients who are referred to me with different types of brain injuries or brain diseases, brain conditions, stroke, multiple sclerosis, dementia, or possible dementia. And I basically evaluate them with a series of tests to figure out how they're functioning. And sometimes I'm diagnosing conditions such as dementia or Alzheimer's disease, that sort of thing, to try to figure out what's wrong. And I see adults and children. I work in a hospital, and I basically run the program there. And that's pretty much what I'm doing during the weekdays from 8 to 5. So, I mean, it's like a full-time side hustle, essentially, doing this other part of the of my life, basically. But I love it. So that's why I just keep doing it and keep going with it.
It makes a lot of sense now, though, thinking back on a lot of things that you say.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, the way you're talking right now, I have to ask you, because I'm like leaning towards psychologist.
Yeah.
Back when I worked outside of the house, for a lot of years, I was a caregiver for adults with disabilities. And prior to that, I was a recreational therapist in nursing homes, and I specialized in Alzheimer's dementia. And I would run groups for the Sundowners.
Right.
And work with them.
That's awesome.
The recreation therapy is we gave them their quality of life back. We gave them games to play. We brought in music from their past and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was very rewarding. I only left the field because I got hurt in the job and now I'm disabled. So this is something I can do from home and be successful without any kind of restrictions except for what my body puts on me, you know?
Yeah.
I see Victoria's here, LV Pink Panther. I just love her and Katie. Hi.
Hey, I just want to say one thing, if it's all right, because I was looking at the chat and Northwest Purple Sparkles. Listen, there's nothing to be afraid of with an estate sale. It just basically think of it as a massive garage sale, and you know, you just get to walk around the whole sale and pretty much pick what you want. I would advise bringing a box or some bags so you could carry the stuff around with you, as well as a bag of tools once you get a little bit more experience with it. Because if you watch my videos, you'll see how many times I use a screwdriver, for example, to take things off the walls that other people leave there. But there's nothing to be scared of at all. The prices are generally reasonable. It's been my experience. There are some people who are real crazy on the prices, but then you just stay away from them next time. Go with a partner if you'd like. But honestly, there's really, again, just nothing to be scared of. Just go to one and you'll see what I'm talking about.
They are really cool because I know, well, first of all, I know a lot of people get freaked out because someone died and you're going through their stuff.
Yeah.
If you set that apart, just get that out of your head. It is so cool. It is like telling you, you can go into this person's home and go through their stuff and take whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're literally digging through everything. Like a lot of them have all the rooms open. Some of them will have like rooms that have the tape on it that say this is private, don't go in here.
Yeah.
But you can go in the bathrooms, the bedrooms, the closets, the kitchen, the garage, the basement, the attic. I mean, you're just like basically having free reign on someone's home and taking whatever you want. It's so cool.
Right. And if you're someone who loves treasure hunting, which I love doing, I mean, it's perfect because, you know, sometimes some of these houses I go to are huge. There's some that are small, but some that are small are really packed. I mean, I really love the they call them pick and pull sales, where there's essentially nothing that's marked and you just have to dig through just tons of stuff and it's priced at checkout. And when it's priced at checkout, that pretty much means you're going to get an incredible deal on it. I mean, there might be some isolated things that have a crazy price that you just ignore, but yeah, no, I mean, for the most part, you know, you could just get some incredible deals at those sales.
I just think they're great. And a lot of times, if you get the right people running it, they just want rid of the stuff. So it is priced cheap. And a lot of times, if you come up with tons of stuff, like a box full or arms full, they'll just like kind of start, whatever, and like basically giving you a better price or just like lumping it all in together because they don't want to sit there and add it all up.
Right. Someone asked in the chat about good sites to look for estate sales in your area. I would tell you, number one, look in Craigslist, and number two, look in your classified section in your online paper. They will be listed in both of those locations. There's also a website. It's estatesales.org or it's estatesales.net. It's one of those two. Go there as well. And then when you go to the sales, a lot of these people who run estate sale companies, you get on their mailing list. And so then they will send you an email that tells you, hey, we have an estate sale coming up next week. Or they might even tell you the next 3 estate sales so you can plan it out. So that's the best way to find out. We connected?
I think it's my internet.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think we got. I think I hear you now.
Okay, well, it is storming here. It is raining really bad. It has been for 2 days. So I think my internet just hiccuped.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Good. I thought I was gonna have to run I thought I was gonna have to run the Flippin' Hippos live show now.
I was like, what's happening? But yeah, we are having really bad, lots of rain here, so it could be affecting it. You were saying about where to go.
Yeah, no, I was just saying to go to Craigslist, your classified section and estatesales.org or estatesales.net, and you'll find the listings of the estate sales in your area. And then you could also get on the estate sale company's mailing list, and they'll tell you their email list. They'll then tell you just, in advance, hey, we're having a estate sale such and such place.
I like to additionally add, if you're like me and Keith and you like to do yard sales also, there is the yard sale treasure map app.
Yep.
And app, and it will show you yard sales and estate sales, so you can kind of like plan around.
Yeah, so Yard Sale Treasure Map is going to basically import everything from Craigslist and allow you to see just geographically wherever you're near where the sales are by these little points they put on the map. But they're basically just taking the Craigslist entries and just importing it.
Yep, I
think we lost
because we can get in the car and hit yard sales and estate sales, and you can map. Is it? Oh.
Copy voice a little. Fading out.
There we go. I have to retrain my thoughts. So.
I'm back up.
I'm good. I'm just gonna keep talking. So when you're using the yard sale treasure map, and you push the little point, you can just tell it to map you, and it'll pull up your Google Maps and it will map you right to the location. But I would definitely suggest getting on the mailing list, because if you can get emails ahead of time about the estate sales, you're ahead of the game instead of checking it the morning of.
Yep.
And Noelle's here. Hi,
Yep.
Noelle.
Oh, Griffith's in the house.
I love her. Hi. So you told me real quick before we went live that you had some examples of different kinds of graphic novels and comic books you wanted to show us.
Yeah, if people run into these things, a lot of people, if they don't know anything about comic books, so they're not sure exactly what it is that they're seeing. So I'll just give a couple just general kind of rules of thumb if you come across some comics, just some kind of things to look for and stuff. So this would be just a good example. If you could see it here. Okay, this putting it right here. You see it all right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So this is just like your regular size comic book. You basically ideally like to look for ones that are 75 cents or less. The 75 cents books are from the 1980s. And once you start getting above that and you start getting into the 1990s books, for the most part, you really want to try to avoid. There's a few exceptions to that, like New Mutants 98, which is the first appearance of Deadpool. Most people have probably heard of, even if you don't watch comic or read comic books because of the movies. But, that book is worth a lot of money. But there's New Mutants 87, which is the first appearance of Cable. But for the most part, 90s books are really not worth too much. So you want to look for those ones 75 cents or less. Now, just because you find an old comic book, like maybe right here, this is we call a golden age comic book from this is, I think, from like the 1950s, 1940s. The Bouncer, it's 10 cents. And if you look it up on a price guide, it's going to say it's worth a ton of money. But when you actually put it into the marketplace, a book like this will not bring what it says in the price guide. Like the price guide will say it's worth $120. It's not going to bring $120 because there's not people out there who are really looking for this book and looking for this character. If it was an old Spider-Man book or an old Batman book and it was a 10-cent issue or 12-cent issue or something like that, then people would be looking for that type of thing. But so don't assume that the price guide value is the same as the market value. That's one other tip I would mention. You're not going to come across these too much when you're out there sourcing, but I get these in my honey hole, and these are the things that really people are going after a lot. These are called graded comic books. So people basically submit them to a company. The most popular one is called CGC. And they get them basically evaluated, graded, and put into this slab, and they get a rating from 0 to 10. 10 is very hard to get. That would be gem mint, but 9.6, 9.8 is near mint plus. People are really looking for that. And if you could get or find one of these that are in a slab like this, and it's a good title, it could significantly increase the value compared to if you just had it without the slab. So especially if they're signed, like a lot of them, people go get them signed by Stan Lee, for example, or like this is an example of one I have right now that's signed by 3 different people, and you'll see it as a yellow bar on the top that indicates that it's a signature series. So it's been certified that these signatures are legitimate. Like I have this one right now on eBay for $145. But they don't all have to be slabbed to be worth something. So for example, this book right here that I literally found in a estate hall, and I got it for less than $1. This is, I couldn't believe it when I opened it. It came out of this envelope. It's Amazing Spider-Man 300, which is a very, very important issue for many reasons. But even without it being slabbed, I have it right now up in my eBay store for $675. I have 14 watchers, and I've had multiple offers of $450 to $500 on it. So I think that it'll probably bring in more. So that's why I'm still kind of leaving it out there. So some of these books, there's some huge money in some of them. One other thing I'll mention before you maybe have some questions is you'll see these a lot. You won't see those graded books that I mentioned, but you'll run across these. I just ran across one at a rummage sale. No, sorry, flea market last week. These are called treasury books. And if you look at it compared to the size of your regular book, these are much bigger. And there is a market out for these. If you could pick these up and they're in pretty decent shape for, $1 or $2, or maybe even less than $5, depending on what issue you picked up and, what's on it, you could, flip it for some good money. Some individual, like Superman and Spider-Man, where they battle. It's the first ever crossover of DC and Marvel. That book regularly, when I find that, goes for like $70 when I put it up on eBay. So, that's basically dealing with individual issues. But if you want, I could talk about purchasing lots of comic books. In other words, like big boxes of them. You there, Star? Tony, could you hear me, Tony? Because I think we lost Star, but I'll just keep talking until Star gets back on the channel. Thanks for adding those links to my Facebook group. Okay. Tony, okay, you hear me. Okay, good. So I'll just keep talking until Star comes back. All right, thanks, Thrifty Santa. This kind of feels weird. I'm running the Flippin' Hippo live show right now. Anyway, I guess this is good practice. I'll answer your question in a second, Tony, but I do plan on doing a live show once I hit 1,000 subscribers. So we're almost there. We're like 943. So hopefully I'll have my own live show going soon. So it'll be pretty cool. So this is a good little test of running one. So try to make the most of it. But okay, so Tony, it depends on the book. So CGC has you could go on their website, CGC's website, and you could see there's all sorts of fees depending on basically the age of the book and the worth of the book. So if it's just like a regular modern comic book, it'll probably cost you like $20, $35. It depends though on there's shipping costs involved because you have to pay for it to get shipped back and forth. But if it's like a really expensive old comic book that's worth like $3,000 or more, then they're going to charge you 3% of what the actual worth of the book is. So it could be really, really expensive because they know that giving that grade to an old book like that's really worth, could be worth a lot of money. There's literally a difference of sometimes, $10,000, for example, between if a book is graded or not. So it really does vary. The cost could be pretty small to be very, very high. In terms of if you have no experience with comic books, how to kind of get into it. And first thing I would say is just get a few comic books, pick them up and just read a few of them just so you could get a feel for it. Start watching shows on Netflix like Comic Book Man. There's a show there where they talk a lot about books and you could just kind of get educated about it. There's a lot of people who do comic book haul videos. So check that out as well. You could learn a lot through that. That's just in terms of educating yourself. In terms of getting a general sense on pricing, there is there's Star. There's a book called comicspriceguide.org. Sign up for free. You get a free account. And
I'm back. Sorry about
Hey.
that. My whole internet went down.
Okay. So I'm just answering the question. There's a question by Kelly. Generally, Kelly, if I see a 12-cent comic book, I will pay $1 for that every time. Generally, even if they're beat up a little bit for the 12-cent and 10-cent books, even if the 10-cent books are like have rips in them and stuff, I'll still pick them up. Some people will, believe it or not, will actually purchase certain, I've sold them before on eBay, coverless comic books. Because sometimes people just want to read the story and they don't want to pay all the money for their original expensive book. Sometimes people will go out and they will actually make their own custom cover to put on a book. And sometimes people will go out and search for someone who has the original cover and try to affix it to a book that doesn't have the cover on it. So where would I stop paying $1 for a comic book? As a general rule of thumb, if you didn't know anything about it, I would say don't pay $1 for a comic book if it's more than 15 cents. Because when you buy big lots of books, like I'm going to pull something out right here from under where I am, and you'll see something here. This is called a long box of comics. If I could even get it out, I mean, this is huge.
Oh, those are so awesome.
Okay, so hope everyone can see this. I'm going to lift this up. Right there, right in this box right here, if I take the lid off, you could see most of them are not bagged and boarded. Could you see this? Okay, right there. Hopefully it won't spill out. Okay, that's approximately 400 comic books in there. If they're all bagged and boarded in a long box, it'd be about 250. For the most part, if you are buying a large lot of comic books like this, you want to try to get them for between 10 and 20 cents an issue, because there's going to be a bunch in there that are not really worth a lot individually. You have to lot them together, and once you take into account the cost of shipping and fees, you may sometimes on some comics only double your money by profiting 30 cents on them if you got them for 15 cents a piece. But for the most part, you know, if you buy a good collection, you know, you could really make a great return on your investment with the good books that are in there. So that's a general rule of thumb. Is people will make that mistake a lot if they're just new into comic books, is they'll find a big box like that and they'll way overpay for it. Like they'll pay like a couple $100 for a long box. In general, most comic book dealers will tell you $20 to $40 for a long box and about maybe $15 for a short box, which has about 140 comics. And it's about half the size of the one that I just showed you. That will fit about 140 comics bagged and boarded.
How do you ship your comics?
How do I ship them?
Mm-hmm.
Good question. So I put all of them in a bag and a board. The bag and the board is really important because even like a book that's kind of maybe has a little bit of damage to it, beat up, when you put that nice bag on it, it helps hide a lot of the defects in the book and helps it present really well. It also does protect it. You know, if you spilled like some water or if I spilled some of my juice on it, for example, helps protect it. Also helps protect it from the humidity. So it's good to just have them in there in general. But I put them in a bag, and then there's a board in the back. There's different sizes depending on when the comic book was made. So, you know, there's current size, there's Silver Age size, there's Golden Age size, and that size. Then there's even for treasury books, like those big ones that I showed you earlier. So I put them in there, and then what I do is I sandwich them between two thick pieces of cardboard. So I basically make like a comic book sandwich, but they have to be nice, strong pieces of cardboard. And then I put tape around the middle of each side and the ends of each side. So I've got 3 pieces of tape on each side. And if it's a big stack that I'm putting out and I'm selling out, I may actually make like a custom box around it. Like I'll cut out some other strips of cardboard just to protect the edges a little bit better. But if it's just a few, like 3, 4, or 1, I won't do that. and then I put it in a clasp envelope, and I just send it out. And if you look at my feedback, I do not have any problems with books getting damaged using that method. The key is to use strong cardboard. You can't use a flimsy piece of cardboard. And also super important, make sure you write "do not bend" on both sides of the envelope.
And
That's
you don't think that's a challenge? A lot of people say if you write "do not bend" or "fragile," you're challenging them.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny that you should say that, because when we first started, and we didn't know any better, we picked up a bunch of books, Stephen King, stuff like that, and we eventually sold them all off. And that's how we would do it. We would just build a sandwich out of the book, and most people were happy. But we got one lady that she didn't leave us negative feedback, but she sent us a scathing email about treating authors like Stephen King better. And she just was so angry that this book she paid $5.55 for wasn't in a box.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, well then go to the store and pay up for it, right?
Right. Classic Rock Lover made a good point that I'll just kind of add on to for people who are new into comics. I run across this all the time. Someone who doesn't know much about comics will find an old, usually beat up Archie comic book, or an old Walt Disney comic book, one that's made by a company called Dell, some old Goofies or Popeyes and things like that, and think that they must be worth a lot of money because they're old and they're popular characters, like an old Mickey Mouse. And for the most part, unless you have one of the really, really early issues, like number 1 or 2 or something like that, those are generally really not worth anything. It's really got to be for those old comic books. You're looking for those classic superheroes. Those are the things that people want. Like, for example, this first issue of Submariner, that's worth well over $100, or, old Spider-Man, old Superman, Batman, those kind of things. That's what people are looking for. That's what they're going to spend the big money on if it's old. Hey, Wade.
And then she also would like to have you tell us the difference between newsstand comics and subscription comics. And yeah, hi, Wade.
Yeah, there's different types of ways that comic books will appear on the bottom. Newsstand versus direct. I'm trying to find an example right here. You can see here the difference. Some comic books will just have will have a UPC on the bottom of it, but there are other ones that just went out directly to the shops, and they basically have this little kind of like an icon or a face on the bottom of it. And so sometimes people will pay more money depending on whether there's a UPC code on the bottom of it or whether there's one of these little faces on the bottom of it like that. So it's just a different way to denote where the person originally got the comic book from when it originally came out.
So the UPC means it's newsstand, and the icon means...
Yeah, and the other one is direct or subscription.
Okay, that's cool. I thought I knew, and I was right. So I'm not that well versed on comic books like you are. I just really like them and read them. I just don't know, my favorite right now is the Harley Quinn New 52.
Yeah, so let me I'll make a point about that, because I did talk about 1980s comic books and earlier, great to look for. I said 1990s books stay away from. Let me just mention a few points for people that's real important to know. Is that in the 1990s, the comic book industry literally almost died off. The reason for that is because they basically overproduced comic books to the point that everyone was hoarding them and thinking they'd be worth something one day. And then eventually people realized, I have all these comic books and they're not really worth anything, because people started to realize that it's kind of the same thing that happened with baseball cards. People started to realize around the late 1980s that if they would have held on, if their parents would have held on to their baseball cards or their comic books from when they were younger, they would have been worth a lot. So everyone just had the idea, well, we'll just buy up all these comic books now and then they'll be worth a lot. And so, one day, like 10, 20 years later, problem is everyone had the same thought, and the comic book companies and the baseball card companies knew that and just started mass producing these books. So that's why to this day you'll still find sometimes just like massive runs of like the same issue, you know, in a comic book owner's store, for example, that they've held on to for over the years because they just can't get rid of it. Then the comic book companies started getting smart in the 2000s, 2010 era. What they started to do is make what's known as variant comic book covers. So for every, for example, 25 regular comic book covers that they would make, they'd make one that was made by a different artist. So it would be a different cover, and it would be kind of hard to find. Or for every 50, then there'd be another, like a different kind of variant, and they're called variant covers. And so those are real important. Then they started doing things like making blank covers, which are called sketch covers. So you could actually take the book, go to a comic book convention, and get an artist who made the book to basically sketch you your own unique cover that's unique only to you. So people started doing that. And when they started doing that, comic book prices just started soaring, and the industry really just picked up again. And it's crazy. So you mentioned Harley Quinn. Anytime I see like, you know, Harley Quinn or Deadpool, which are some of the, you know, more popular modern characters, Suicide Squad, pick that stuff up because that stuff is really hot and really valuable.
Yeah, I think Harley's New 52 started in 2015, I want to say, because I got the very first one, and then I signed up at the comic book store where they hold it for me every time a new issue comes out, and they call me, and they hold the variant covers for me too. So I have like the first one all the way up to present and all the variant covers. And some of the issues, they had like more than one variant cover. I can't remember if it was Valentine's Day or whatever, but it had her and the Joker and 3 different covers with hearts and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually prefer the classic Harley. I like the New 52. The one from the movie was okay, but that classic Harley in the red and black, she's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, if you could find anything that's, you know, anything close to like an initial, one of the first few appearances of Harley Quinn, and you could find it as a first print, I mean, you could make crazy amount of money on something like that. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think the first appearance of most of the really popular ones, you can pretty much make bank on.
Yep. So it is important to look at the printing, and one little trick is for modern comic books, if you look, I don't have an example here right in front of me, but maybe I do, I don't know, I'll have to look. But if you look at the UPC codes on the bottom of the comic books and you look at the last number, it'll say a 1 or a 2. The 1 will mean that it's a first printing, and the 2 would mean it's a second printing, and so on and so forth. So those numbers on the bottom also will give indication as to the number of the comic book. Like if it's number 15, it will actually start with a 15. So that actually means in the UPC code that it's the 15th issue. Then you'll see a number subsequent to that, which would tell you if it's a variant cover or not. If it's the original cover, it will say number 1. That means it's original. But if it says like a 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes these go up to like 6 or 7 variant covers. That's a quick, easy way just to look at the UPC code to tell whether or not you have a variant issue on your hands.
I never knew that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we're closing in on an hour, so I just want to open it up for like the last 10 minutes to the people to ask you anything that they want to know.
All right.
So if you guys got questions, throw them up, and we'll do our best to get you in before we end. I don't like to go too much over an hour because we all have things to do. We're all busy entrepreneurs, but that UPC thing is really neat. That's good to know. But someday my kids are going to have a gold mine on their hands because I have every variant of the New 52 Harley. Yeah,
when this show's over, just go to those books and pull them out, and you'll see on the bottom how those numbers differ depending on whether or not it's a variant.
Because I never knew that. So now I should have brought them out so I could have showed them, but they're bagged and boarded. And like when I bring them home and I first read them, it's like real careful.
Yeah.
And then I bag and board them and they go away. They're put up safe. If you take a comic to a Comic-Con like event to get someone's signature on it, consider paying and leaving the comic there to have it slabbed. It is the only way to. Okay. That wasn't a question.
That's true. Like the company I mentioned earlier, CGC. So when they certified this book over here, and you can see here it says CGC Signature Series right up top. that means that it literally was witnessed by a CGC representative to be an actual signature. And in addition, what you also note is that it tells you the dates that they were signed. So this person, for example, got the comic book signed by Dan Slott and Greg Horn on 5/18/14, and then waited for another convention to get it signed by a third person to make it triple signed, and it tells you the date that that person signed the comic book. The other cool thing about the graded comic books is they'll have little notes on top that will tell you if there's anything special that happened in the comic book. However, one of the things I also tell you about, which I would say, sign up for a free account on comicpriceguide.org or .com. I can't remember, but it's one comic. I have the link in some of my videos, but if you sign up for a free account and you look up a certain comic book, it will tell you whether or not it's a key issue. It'll put like a little key next to it, which means it's real important, something significant happened in it. And it will tell you actually what that significant thing was, like first appearance of Venom or first appearance of such and such character, or this character died in this issue. Like it'll tell you why this book is worth so much and why it's important.
Well, I'll ask you a question since no one else is.
All right.
How do you feel? This is not really reseller related, but nerd to nerd, I need to know. The movies, the MCU versus DC Comics movies.
Well, the Batman movies were good. I've watched a few of those. Those seem to be the one that are most popular. But I think it's pretty much most people think, and I would agree, that the Marvel Comics series has just been way more popular. Like they've just done so well with their movies compared to DC. Just objectively, they've just made so much more money at the box office compared to DC's. So DC really needs to try to get their act together to compete more with Marvel. But well,
MCU, for anybody that doesn't know, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And they have done a spectacular job because they actually tie in their TV shows and their movies. Like if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they reference movies that just came out in theater. And they've done a fantastic job of portraying their characters. And DC kind of fell flat. I just personally, storyline and character-wise, I've always liked the Gotham villains. They're my favorite.
Yeah.
All the Gotham villains, the Batman stories, they're wonderful. But the DC movies are like, meh, I'd rather go watch the MCU because it's just more entertaining, I think.
Right. And to me, Adam West will always be my Batman. I grew up with Adam West and Burt Ward, and that 60s Batman series, I love it. And I have the whole thing on DVD. I love watching them. So
yeah, I really liked Adam West too. He was, I liked him a lot. I guess the only Batman movies I really liked were the Christian Bale, the ones that were filmed here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But the DC, I don't know. That's just so, like, the Suicide Squad was okay, but it's like if you've been a Harley Quinn fan for your whole life, for 40 years since you were a kid, and you waited all this time for her to come to the live screen, it was just kind of like, eh.
So Noel had a question there on my favorite niche after comics. That's very simple, and it's related. Toys. Masters of the Universe figures. I got Snake Mountain right here.
No, you don't.
Right there. The microphone works. And you know what I'm going to take out next, right? I just showed you Snake Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Castle Grayskull.
Oh my God.
So it's funny because when I think back to how I got into comic books, because I've thought back to that, like, how did I get into this to begin with? You know, I've been reading them ever since I was a kid. And I would get these Spider-Mans off the newsstand and stuff and read them. But as I think back to really my true first comic book was actually, if you remember, the Masters of the Universe figures, when you would buy them, they'd come in a kind of a case like this. Here, I have a toy next to me here. It's like an Aliens toy.
Mm-hmm.
And they come in case like this. And in the back of them, they'd actually have a mini comic.
Yep.
And the He-Man one, the original He-Man, I remember my parents taking me into KB toy stores and purchasing me the He-Man figure. And then a few weeks later, getting me the Skeletor figures. That's all I had was those two. And reading those comic books. And I was the happiest kid on the planet. And just with those two figures and reading those comic books, I just loved it. And that just hooked me. And since then, I just started buying the bigger comic books. But that's actually my first comic book that I read. Has to be the mini He-Man Masters of the Universe one that came with the toy.
That's awesome. I do remember those. And I had She-Ra also. My parents got me She-Ra. I was really into Wonder Woman when I was a kid.
Well, okay, so about Wonder Woman, here's just a tip for everyone in the group. I don't care what it is. Anything you find that's Wonder Woman, pick it up. Wonder Woman has one of the most obsessive fan bases out there. And I mean, I don't care if it's an old Wonder Woman watch. I don't care if it's a pair of underoos. I don't care what it is. If it has Wonder Woman on it, pick it up. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a personal Wonder Woman t-shirt, and I got a little chubby, so it didn't fit me anymore. And it was like a Walmart brand, and it was used. Like I wore it like once or twice. And it was a Walmart brand, and it went for like $20 on our store. It was like one of the first things that we ever flipped in the store. You know how they always say when you start to clean out your closet and sell your own stuff? Keith was selling his old video games and his old action figures and toys, and I was going through my clothes, and I do remember that. It was like a used Walmart brand, but because it had the Wonder Woman on it, it went for like $20.
Yeah, and you mentioned video games. We haven't really mentioned this yet, but there is a big crossover between people who like video games and comic books and toys. Like those three things go together really, really well.
Yeah, that's nerd stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all kind of in the same genre, really.
Yeah, it sure is. So we have hit the hour, and I don't see any more questions. So do you have anything else you want to leave us with?
Let's see. Yeah, comic books could be a really, really lucrative thing if you are passionate about it and you know what you're doing. That just takes experience, and I wouldn't advise just anybody getting into it if you just don't know anything about it at all. You've got to kind of develop a knowledge base, but you can. It just takes time, and I would just advise, again, watching a bunch of videos and grabbing some comic books yourself, reading them just to kind of get familiar with it, and that's how you learn. I mean, I tell people, if I could watch, Steve Rakin's channel and Casey, the Rockstar Flippers channel, and learn about clothing brands and go out and start sourcing women's and men's clothes, which I don't really care about, and do pretty well on it, then, anyone could really learn about any topic and, start making money with it.
Yeah, that's true. You just got to educate yourself.
Yeah, and branch out. I saw one of your, I think, Instagram post, Star, where you were saying make sure you, try to branch out into areas where you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, I have a challenge going right now out to all my viewers.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I actually looked at some shoes today and I touched them. But yeah, that's right. Anybody can learn about anything. You just have to want to learn. And I know I've heard Bonafide say this. Sometimes the best way to learn is to let things go on in the background. So, like, if you want to learn about comic books, let Dominic's channel just play in the background if you currently do clothes, while you're measuring your clothes and taking your photos. You're listening to him, but your brain sometimes will tend to soak it up more if it's like a background thing you're listening to. So just let him run in the background if you want to learn. He has a really good channel, you guys. Down below, subscribe, join his Facebook group, follow him on Instagram, but most importantly, subscribe. Do you know what you're currently at? You're very close to 1K, right?
Let me see what the update is.
Guys, he is so close to 1,000.
I have my phone right here. Yeah, it's been like, I'm going to go out. I said I'm going to go out and get a pizza when I hit 1,000. I got a few. I'm up to 948. I'm so close.
So he's got 52 more to go. So please subscribe to him. He is not, I do want to put this out there. You're not just comic books and collectibles. He has a lot of valuable information on how to source estate sales, how to negotiate, how to barter. Yeah. He's got a lot of valuable information other than the comic books.
Yeah. Thanks, Star.
Yep. And Holly, thank you for moderating tonight. I appreciate you. You always do a fantastic job. And thank you to everyone else that took the time out of your lives tonight to join us live here and watch us. I appreciate it. Please make sure you like this video. If you haven't already, you'd like to, please subscribe to our channel and help us feed a hungry hippo. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're at Flippin' Hippos. Everybody have a great night. Be productive. Go do something out of your comfort zone.
Thanks.
Yep. Have a good night.
All right.